private schools produced the two top performers in this year's Common Entrance exam. Fire strikes the city, destroying the old ice factory. And in sports, the Indian leg of the Digicel series begins tomorrow.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Hello, good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. This is the CBC Evening News. Private schools have produced the two top performers in this year's 11+ examination. Damien Best was at the Ministry of Education for the announcement, and he files this report.
This year's overall Common Entrance examination results show an improvement in both English and mathematics. In maths, 47.9% scores 70% or more. However, there is concern about the 19.4% of students who score less than 30%. In English, there was an increase in the number of students scoring above 70%. In comparison, there was a reduction in students scoring less than 30%. The Minister of Education, Ronald Jones, expressed some concern with how students handled Section B of the English paper, which asked them to answer open-ended questions.
Students must be able to give the answer, correct answer, subject and verb agreement right, spelling right, sentence structure, all that has to be correct. It takes 30% of the marks. In the instances where every person scored at the top, obviously excellent language development and the ability to write and to do it correctly, so you get your 99s, 96s, 97, 98s.
The Education Minister also said analysis showed that the school system still had work to do.
Students, one, even though being taught concepts, can sometimes exhibit some failure because they're not applying the concepts taught. And you will also have persons who are just looking at writing an answer down on a paper. That is problematic.
He also said some parents must show more interest in their children.
It takes, in this instance, 3 or 4 persons working together to bring out the best in our students. The student himself, the parent, the school, the teachers, to bring out the best in our students. And if there are fractures in any of that circle, then there are going to be problems. When students demonstrate total care, lack of concern, that kind of stuff, that's a fracture. And therefore teachers and parents can beg, cajole, bamboozle, whip into shape. Sometimes that will not work.
The top schools overall are St. Gabriel's, St. Winifred's, South District, and Gordon Greenwich Primary. Damien Best, CBC News.
Well, St. Gabriel's student Abigail Durant had something to smile about today. Abigail, the top girl in the island for the Common Entrance examination, received 100 in mathematics, 97 in English, and an A in the composition. Happy parents Neil and Michelle Durant say they are beyond words, but the entire family, including Granddad Charles Durant and sister Rebecca, are ecstatic. Abigail's mom says the trip was already planned to Disney World to celebrate whatever results Abigail received. And Abigail says her life was based on a balance of schoolwork and her other activities. She says she's happy with her results and can't wait on Monday to tell her friends.
It's the best feeling. You work so hard and then you get the best marks on the island. It's the best feeling. You've never felt it, but it's amazing.
Aspiring to be a doctor or a musician, Abigail will be headed to her first choice, St. Michael's School, a choice she says was an easy decision.
It's close to home, so I can continue all my after-school activities. And my mom researched all year, and it just seems like the right choice.
And Ibrahim Patel of Al Falah School is the top male performer in this year's 11+ exam. He scored 100% in mathematics, 95 in English, with an A in composition. Ibrahim says and his family and teachers were all smiles when a CBC team visited the school this afternoon. Ibrahim, who will be heading to Queen's College, says he is very proud of his achievement. He told CBC News how he got the job done.
It was a lot of hard work. I had extra lessons and I did a lot of hard work in class.
Well, just 2 years ago, another student from Al Falah was the top performer. Principal Ibrahim Bana says he is pleased with the general performance of the institution.
Overall, it did very good.
You could tell me how many?
We had 3 students for Harrison College, 1 for Queen's College, which is Abraham, and 1 for St. Michael, 2 for Commonmere, 2 for Leicester Vaughan, and 1 for Springer.
The students of the Hinesbury School are letting their voices be heard. This morning, the school held its inaugural Speak Off competition, which challenged 14 Class 4 students in both prepared and impromptu speeches. With support from the rest of the student body, participants went through a range of topics from cell phone use in schools to their future professions. Principal of Hinesbury, Nola Cummins-Lewis, says the students started training after the Common Entrance examination. She added that the aim is to ensure that their students can speak in public.
We know that is a problem in the Caribbean. Our children, yes, they can write. And they can write, but then when we get up, even grown-ups, get up to speak in front of an audience, then we can't handle it. So our aim is to hone the skills of the children so that we can have the orators that our country, the four parents of our country, people like Errol Babel, Tom Adams.
Ebony Maynard placed first in the Speak Up competition with Shanae Thompson second and Janae Payne third. Kayla Haynes won the impromptu table topics competition. Well, several businesses and residents in and around Mason Hall Street in the city are breathing a sigh of relief after fire destroyed what was known as the ice factory. Shane Seeley was on the scene.
Fire officials were today able to prevent what could have been a major catastrophe here at the corner of Mason Hall Street in the city. Now, the fire started at the old ice factory, and that building is surrounded by dozens of homes and a number of businesses which could have been affected if the fire was allowed to get out of control. CBC driver Jeffrey Best and cameraman Chris Wood followed this tender to the fire, which started just after 1:30 this afternoon. Police cordoned off the area, but first instructed people to move their cars to allow the emergency services to get to the blaze. Chief Fire Officer Wilfred Marshall said it was critical to control this fire as quickly as possible.
That is a very densely populated area. Fires in the city have always posed a problem to us, but fortunately we were able to get in early and prohibit any further expansion of the fire. First responding teams getting in position early, applying water and controlling. As more appliances come in, there are more men on the scene. You just apply them in strategic places and bring the fire under control.
City MP Patrick Todd says he's pleased that the fire was contained to the old ice factory. Mr. Todd explained that if the fire got out of control, there could have been severe dislocation.
And I know that there's an adjoining business, a cleaning firm, and I'm happy that the fire did not spread significantly to that location in view of any chemicals that may be stored there, and the fact that many employees would have been dislocated if the fire had destroyed that location.
Now, CBC News understands that the ice factory was unoccupied at the time of the fire, but we also understand that vagrants made the building their home. We'll wait to hear in the coming days what actually caused the fire. I'm Shane Seeley for CBC News.
And we'll have more on the evening news in a moment. Employees of United Commercial Auto Workers Limited, or UCAL, are protesting what they say is the lack of a pay increase for the past 7 years. They say they've had enough promises and are signing a petition to stop deductions of their dues from their salaries for the Barbados Workers Union. There are over 150 UCAL workers affiliated to the BWU. They say their contribution to the union amounts to just over $45,000 annually. These are mechanics, body workmen, painters, general workers, servicemen and electricians. UCAL works mainly for the Transport Board, carrying out repairs on the state corporation's buses. The workers say that with the cost of living climbing every day, it's time they're given an increase in pay. They were planning to go on strike last month, but put the plan on hold following 2 emergency meetings with the Barbados Workers Union. When contacted, Deputy General Secretary of the BWU, Robert Bobby Morris, said he had no comment to make on the matter. Well, the Transport Board is reporting positive results from recently introduced cost-cutting measures. General Manager Sandra Ford says just 1 month after introducing revised schedules, the board is already recording savings.
Drivers' wages have remained stable, and we have also seen a slight reduction in our diesel usage. Not diesel costs, but diesel usage. By that I mean that previously around this time, if I do a year-over-year comparative analysis, around this time we were utilizing approximately $676,000 in liters in diesel. Now that we've introduced, and it's only a month, I've seen a decrease by about 60,000. So we're only utilizing about 600,000 liters of diesel, which ultimately would have a reduction on our overall diesel costs.
The Transport Board General Manager was speaking after a ceremony recognizing the Transport Board top drivers of 2010. She said it is imperative that the corporation deliver the type of service it has promised to supply. According to her, the expectations of the traveling public have increased and they are no longer content to ignore issues that impact the service.
Complaints of drivers being rude, not stopping when persons are at the bus stops, or deciding not to collect students cannot be allowed to continue. It must be clearly stated that everyone at the Transport Board is collectively responsible for reaching our mandate, from the general manager down to the general worker.
Curtis Corbin, who is attached to the Mangrove Depot, was Driver of the Year for 2010. He defeated Curtis Miller, Alvin Codrington, Rudolph Carter, Neville Ellis and Steve Springer to take the top prize.
It is great humility that I accept this award for Driver of the Year 2010. I promise to continue to uphold the high standard set by the board and continue to do my best.
Barbadians have been put on notice that the 2011 hurricane season will be a very busy one and that they should be prepared for all eventualities. The advice from Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Judy Thomas, at a news conference at her Warren's office. She says the island is still trying to recover from the passage of Tropical Storm Tomas last October, which showed that preparations are vital to stave off any system that is categorized as to and over.
I am saying we have put the country on notice today that we are in a hurricane season that has said to be above average, that we are looking at 16 storms and we are looking at a possibility of 5 of those being super hurricanes or mega hurricanes. We know that a tropical storm did some severe damage to us and our infrastructure last year. So we know that we are highly vulnerable to tropical storm. So if we get into the realm of Hurricane 1, 2, or 3, we are going to get increasing levels of damage and disruption. And we are nowhere near ready for our Category 4 and 5. That is our reality. So let us get ourselves at least ready for our Category 2.
Ms. Thomas says severe systems impact on the poor in a significant way, and it's evident that this year's season will be active, with at least 5 systems promising to be major challenges for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean.
Sustained winds in this country for some time is going to cause severe damage, especially to the poor and disadvantaged in our community. And those people are the ones that the government has been committed to providing some kind of support. The question of insurance has been discussed, and I would think that person should be able to save themselves a lot of stress by making sure that their house and their contents are insured against hurricanes and severe weather.
Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. But first, the courts quiz. On what date was the St. Michael Girls' School opened? Break, we asked, on what date was the St. Michael Girls' School opened? May 7, 1928. Petroleum dealers have cautioned the St. Lucia government against increasing the price of petrol as it prepares to make its monthly adjustment next week. President of the Petroleum Dealers Association, Clinton Shallery, told reporters that their businesses are incurring heavy losses, and he's blamed the Stephenson King administration's current regulation policies for the situation. He's also calling on the government to meet with all stakeholders to discuss the issue. Shallery said that gas retailers are on the brink of collapse and that the government should reconsider any plans to increase the price of fuel. The Ministry of Commerce is scheduled to release the price of the commodity for the month of June on Monday. Public workers in Jamaica are bracing for industrial action after rejecting the latest pay offer from the Bruce Golding government. The National Workers Union has already announced that it would be staging a series of rallies next week to seek support for the Jamaica government to pay the 7% salary increase dating back to 2009. The NWU represents prison warders, nurses, dental surgeons, nurse anesthetists, and employees at the government's oil refinery Petrojam. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Association of Public Health Inspectors has become the latest group of public workers to reject the government's schedule for the payment of retroactive salaries. Japan is continuing to assist Caribbean countries despite its severe economic and physical challenges occasioned by a tsunami, earthquake, and devastation of a major part of its nuclear infrastructure. Of those still receiving foreign aid is Dominica, which yesterday launched a $6.8 million fisheries center. The facility, the third such constructed by the Japanese, was officially opened by Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett. Up ahead is the Lime Sports World, but before we get to that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
The first global ministerial conference on road safety was held in Moscow 2009. This meeting culminated in the Moscow Declaration and called for a decade of action for road safety. This tip in association with the Decade of Action for Road Safety.
Welcome to Lime Sports World.
A very good evening. I am Mark Seal with your Lime Sports World. The Indian leg of the 2011 Digicel Home Series gets underway tomorrow when the West Indies take on the visitors in a 2020 matchup at Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad and Tobago. CBC's Shane Jones looks ahead.
The Windies will take the field without their so-called big names in the batting lineup, but this is nothing new. Not in recent times. The T20 victory over Pakistan last month will give the young team the belief to do well again. And the plus is that many of the newbies would now have the experience of an international game under their belts. Lendl Simmons is enjoying some good form and the Windies will be looking for him to do well, while Darren Bravo has shown glimpses of exceptional stroke play. But consistency is needed from him. Apart from those two, the regional side's batting isn't really one to shout about. Andre Fletcher is a bit of a hit or miss, and Marlon Samuels has not quite got going in the limited overs formats of the game since his return. Pressure will be on the skipper Darren Sammy to get some runs. Having said that, the bowling looks promising. Devendra Bishu and Ravi Rampal have been outstanding against Pakistan, and aided by Ashley Nurse, Sammy and Andre Russell, the attack looks solid. The Windies will welcome the absence of Sachin Tendulkar, Virender Sehwag, MS Dhoni, Gautam Gambhir and Yuvraj Singh. India's weekend batting lineup away from home may struggle, especially against a rampant Rampal. However, the home team must be wary of the off-spin of Harbhajan Singh and R. Ashwin. That pair will pose a serious threat. The odds may slightly be in the West Indies' favour, but India is no Pakistan, and tomorrow will be a fight. Shane Jones, CBC Sports.
Thanks, Shane. Play starts at 10 a.m. Live coverage will be on TV 8 and also on radio 94.7 FM. In more cricket news, England recovered after a shaky start to enjoy marginally the better of an enthralling opening day to the second test against Sri Lanka at Lord's today, reaching 342 for 6 by the close. A fourth wicket stand of 108 between Alistair Cook, who got 96, and Ian Bell, 52, gradually swung the balance the home side's way. Owen Morgan with 79 and Matt Pryor, 73 not out, then had a partnership of 101. That's a record for England's sixth wicket against Sri Lanka. Suranga Lakmal has so far taken 3 for 79. Switching now to football, 12 goals were scored at the National Stadium today in the second round games of the Baiko Primary Schools competition. 4 games were contested, with Ellerton first picking up the biggest victory of the day, a 5-1 drubbing of Holy Innocents. Wilkie Cumberbatch defeated Gordon Greenwich 2-1, while St. Cyprian's and St. David's played to a 0-0 draw. Meanwhile, All Saints, who had only lost 1 game before reaching this stage, came up against a determined St. Gabriel's. CBC's Sean Green was there.
All Saints in the red and black was one of the better teams coming out of the north, and they kept the St. Gabriel goalie quite busy in the early minutes. However, it's one thing to be kept busy, but Samuel Atkins went all the way and blasted this shot past Remar Butcher for the opening goal of the game. Butcher learned from that blunder and got firmly behind this one. St. Gabriel started the second half positively with the 1-0 cushion. Again, the custodian made sure he got everything behind it on this occasion. Then Isaiah Boyce, with a run down the flank, aimed this one directly at his target. The keeper was out of position as the ball whizzed past him. That was the equalizer which All Saints needed. Then they struck again. Another Isaiah Waith from just beyond the halfway line. Now you should expect any keeper to stop this, but Waith made a human save out of him. And that sent the All Saints camp into a frenzy. Even coach Troy Thorpe got in on the celebrations. Final score, All Saints 2, St. Gabriel's 1. Sean Green, CBC Sports.
Switching to netball, it will be Combermere versus Springer for the under-13 title, while Allen will clash with Leicester Vaughan for the under-15 crown, when the finals of the Barbados Secondary Schools Netball League are contested next Tuesday. This after the semi-finals yesterday at the Netball Stadium. CBC's Marsha Boyce was there.
The defending champions, Combermere, here in blue and yellow, started well against Alexandra and would lead 10-4 at half-time. But Alexandra weren't just going to give up. This was a semi-final after all. They made a game of it in the second half, outscoring the Combermerians 3-1. But the Waterford girls, particularly goal attack Shanika Thomas, who shot 10 from 19 in the game, had done enough to hold on to win 11-7 and book a spot in the final. Their opponents will be Springer Memorial, who had a much easier outing against the Garrison. Springer wasted no time in jumping to a 7-0 lead at the start of this contest. Here's goal shooter Rikisha Joseph picking up one of her 11 goals. At the other end, Garrison's shooters struggled a bit, only scoring 5 goals between them. Springer goal attack Mariah Haynes led the way with 9 goals from 12 attempts, as they easily wrapped this one up 20-5. Time now for the under-15s. Allen in blue definitely weren't daunted by the task of facing the defending champions Garrison in the semis. They took early control and would lead 7-3 at the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, Garrison brought on Charisse Bullen at goal attack, while goal shooter Shanika Wharton took charge. The national under-16 player would score all but one of her team's goals, ending with 21 from 30 in the game. They cut the deficit to 1 at halftime, but that was as close as they would get. Nikayla Jordan, with 24 from 32 attempts, would lead Allen to victory. They would take the game 27-22, and with it, a place in the final. Up next for them will be Leicester Vaughan here in green. They got the better of Combermere in the other semi. Thomas, who led Combermere to victory in the under-13s, did the brunt of the shooting for the under-15 team as well. But she'd be on the losing side this time around, as the Leicester Vaughan pair of Victoria Macmillan with 13 from 28 and Tashana Young 10 from 16 would ensure the St. Thomas-based girls were on the way to the final. Leicester Vaughan led from start to finish, eventually winning the game 23-18. Marsha Boyce, CBC Sports.
tennis and basketball, all after the break.
Everybody wants something different from their mobile. Some people want to stay in touch. Others just want to stay on top of it all. Some people want to choose the right plan for their lifestyle. Others just want it all in a bundle. Some love getting more for their money by carrying over unused minutes. Others just want more convenient ways to top up. But hey, whatever you want from your mobile, chances are you will find it with Line. Line, for living every day.
And in ball here in Barbados, Ellerslie showed that they are boss at home in the latest round of matches in the Co-Operators General Under-16 basketball competition. Playing in their traditional yellow, Ellerslie led at all quarters, 14-9, 24-16, and 32-24, before going on to win 47-32 against Garrison Secondary. Raphael Brathwaite was in good form for the home team, getting 15 points, while Kadeem Eyes Brathwaite got 12. While for Garrison, Andrew Eiffel scored a game-high 17 points. St. Cyprian's dethroned last year's champions Providence A team to grab their first United Insurance Inter-School Primary Schools Chess Championship. St. Cyprian's recorded 3 victories on the final day at the St. Michael's School to end on 48 points from a maximum 60. Now, after defeating St. Winifred's and St. Gabriel's in rounds 4 and 5 respectively, St. Cyprian's battled to a hard-fought 6-4 victory over Providence B to wrest the title. Finishing in second was Providence A, who fought off a strong challenge from Arthur Smith A. They finished on 39, while Arthur Smith finished on 37. That's it for sports. Kent Jerson and the Business Report up next.
This has been Lime Sports World.
Tonight's business report is brought to you by Banks Holdings Limited. Many companies, one goal: excellence.
Good evening, I'm Kent Jerson and this is the business report. Another major step has been taken on the road towards making wireless internet access available across Barbados. Leading law firm Lex Caribbean has not only unlocked its Wi-Fi network, but also made it accessible up to 1 kilometer away from the company's Worthing Christchurch office. This is part of efforts being driven by the Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation to make this entire island Wi-Fi accessible by November this year. Melanie Jones, a director of the BEF and a partner at Lex Caribbean, explains why achieving this goal is important.
Successful countries have become successful in large part because they have embraced technological innovation, both in telecoms and in information technology. And those countries that fail to do that, they're falling behind. And we don't want Barbados to fall behind in that fashion. Also, we have a situation inside of Barbados where there are some people, because of where they live and where they grow up, who don't have ready access to the internet right now. And then there are others who just by happy accident do. And we think, both at the BEF and here at Lex Caribbean law firm, we feel that everyone ought to have access to the internet because it is a tool by which we can all develop.
Ms. Jones says people wasted no time getting onto the network when it opened up last Tuesday.
They switched it on, so to speak, and hopped in a car and drove out of our car park, down Worthing Main Road, to the traffic lights where they stopped at a red light. That took them less than 2 minutes and 6 people had logged on. So the network is being used. Yesterday's usage, as at about 3 o'clock, was about 225 emails had been sent via the network. And in case there's any confusion, no one who works in our building here at Lex or in any of the other firms that are in this building uses our guest network because everybody has full connectivity here. So you're talking about people out in the street and in our immediate environs who are logging onto our guest network.
In other news, Barbadians now have a better idea about how to identify genuine Barbados currency notes. Members of the public were given a lesson on how to recognize counterfeit money this morning. The session was conducted at the Central Bank by Matt West, the regional manager of the British commercial security printer De La Rue. He says counterfeit money can be spotted through 4 simple steps. These are look, feel, tilt, and check. According to him, There are significant features which cannot be reproduced, such as the serial numbers, watermarks, fluorescent lines, and the all-important security thread. Mr. West also says the design changes frequently.
Today, on average, every 7 to 10 years, we have to upgrade banknotes, not only to counter the counterfeiters' efforts, but also just in terms of design. Banknotes change every 7 to 10 years. So, but one thing we don't know is how many counterfeits are out there. We know that they exist. Nobody really knows how many there are.
Now for a brief look at the stocks, here's a summary of today's trading on some of the region's exchanges.
As Banks Holdings Limited grows and expands to meet increasing global challenges, we remain a true Bajan success story. Not only are BHL products a part of every Bajan home, but we're in the region and increasingly even further afield. So as you continue to make Banks Holdings Limited part of your life, you continue to strive for excellence.
BHL, many companies, one goal, BHL.
Take a look at international business now. The sluggish pace of the economic recovery in the U.S. is reflected in the country's latest jobs report.
The U.S. economy added just 54,000 jobs last month. That was far, far worse than expected. It needs to add almost 3 times that number just to keep up with population growth. Also, the unemployment rate has risen from 9% to 9.1%. Investors are finding it hard to find a silver lining in these figures. We saw a sharp drop at the open of trade in New York. Alison Karsick is at the New York Stock Exchange to tell us what's happened since. Alison.
Stocks have actually recovered since the open. We saw stocks drop as far as 140 points. The Dow now down only about 66. But, you know, this report overall came as a big shock to Wall Street. You know, if you look at what you were just talking about, you know, the past year, the past several months have been pretty good with job gains averaging of almost 250,000. But, you know, it's really disconcerting to see what's going on in this report. You look deeper. You know, the government is shedding jobs at a faster pace than any other area of the economy. Manufacturing as well, and that was thought to really power this recovery. I talked with a few traders, and they're just expecting more weakness to come through the summer.
Let's look at business. Weather is next.
Tonight's business report was brought to you by Banks Holdings Limited. Many companies, one goal: excellence.
Hello, good evening, and this evening we're looking at 2 tropical waves headed our way. There's also a very interesting system to the south of Jamaica. Those details in just a moment. But here across Barbados today, beautiful weather conditions, warm and sunny all day. And at the airport, just a cue of what conditions were like today. High temperature of 31.2 degrees Celsius recorded overnight. We saw the temperature middling between 25 and 26 degrees Celsius, and it's still warm on the outside right now. The relative humidity unchanged since yesterday. It stands at 82%, and the winds are moderate and coming in from the east-southeast. And our first satellite picture comes up so we can look across the Atlantic, see what's happening there. We have one tropical wave at around 43 degrees west, south of 18 degrees north. At the moment, there's a cyclonic movement associated with that system. Not a whole lot of shower activity. It's moving towards us at a moderate pace, and we'll be monitoring that system. So too the second tropical wave that's around 58 degrees west. That system not very well defined, but it has a whole lot of showers and thunderstorms associated with it, and those showers and thunderstorms now affecting Guyana and French Guiana. Here in our region today, though, high pressure dominating, warm and sunny weather conditions today because of a very dry and stable atmosphere, except though in the area of Trinidad and Tobago where the intertropical convergence zone has been fairly active. So we saw heavy shower activity, over an inch of rain, as well as some thunderstorm activity, and also wet and rainy from Puerto Rico all the way through to Cuba because of a trough system there. And I did mention to you, by the way, the northern Bahamas would have enjoyed fair weather conditions. That there's a system now to the south of Jamaica. It's a low pressure system. It has a 20% chance of developing into a depression, but it looks as if over the next 48 hours it could be generating heavy showers that could cause mudslides and flooding over Jamaica, parts of Hispaniola, and the southeastern tip of Cuba. And in terms of the forecast now, well, not a whole lot of change. Wet and rainy over most of the larger islands from Hispaniola all the way through to the southern part of the Bahamas. We're expecting fair conditions over the northern Bahamas as well as Puerto Rico. And for us here in the Eastern Caribbean, it's going to continue to be generally fair. We could get a few showers during the night, but you see that showers will continue over the area of Trinidad and Tobago because of that tropical wave that's moving through and a very busy intertropical convergence zone. We move on now to the 4-day forecast. And tomorrow we're expecting partly cloudy conditions with scattered showers. Cloudy with scattered showers on Sunday and Monday, and on Tuesday we should see some of those clouds lift out of the area, but we're still expecting scattered showers. Sunrise will be at 29 before 6, and the sun will set at 22 past 6. Our first daytime high tide 17 minutes before 5, and the first daytime low 24 minutes before midday. Seas will be slight to moderate in open water. Swells will peak at around 1.5 meters, and the winds will flow in from the east to the south-southeast, changing our wind directions between 15 and 35 kilometers per hour. And tonight it's going to be fair to partly cloudy with some scattered showers, and tomorrow fair to partly cloudy at first, becoming increasingly cloudy with some scattered showers. Final look now at forecast weather conditions for the region and then our selected international cities.
And that's news. Have a good night.
Crop Over 2011. It's our heritage. It's our culture. It's explosive color and pulsating rhythms. CBC TV8, right there with you this Crop Over.